You're not lazy, you're not scattered, you're not broken. You just never got a map for how your own mind works. And nobody's going to hand you one. Today we start building it. You've got to have an organization scheme. You have to have a plan, a way to deal with these things. With there being so much complexity, with there being so much in your life that you're handling all at one time, it's not just going to yield to just a lot of effort. And, elbow grease alone is not going to handle it all. And the issue isn't the amount of effort, and isn't that you've got a problem of your focus. The issue is trying to execute before discovery, before you actually understand the nature of the problem, before you can really see what all the different things you're dealing with have in common with each other and what they really need to have handled. It's about sequencing. It's about finding the strategy after you've actually defined the problems, after you actually have understanding of what's really going on and what you're dealing with. And so that order of operations for getting unstuck, it's not about figuring out what to do, actually. It's about figuring out what's actually true here. Like, what is going on in this situation? What is the underlying principles, the underlying currents that you're struggling with, that you're dealing with? And, both what's important to you, what's important to yourself, what are your aims, what are your goals? You get kind of lost when you have a lot of complexity, a lot of things calling for your attention, a lot of things that you're dealing with all at once. So the first thing you have to do is you have to go into a discovery phase. You have to figure out, where am I? What am I moving toward? What is my real aim here? What are my goals? You have to realign yourself with your own internal value system, the value hierarchy. You have to figure out again where those things align for you, how those things work. And you have to see where you fall into alignment with those things. And is your outward life, is the life that you're living, still actually lining up to those values, still lining up to that, mission framework that you have? When you've done that discovery, you can figure out what's out of alignment, you can figure out what needs to change, and you can go into the next phase, which is strategy. So first comes discovery, second comes strategy. You start coming up with a plan. You start coming up with the steps that you need to take that will begin to alter the course. You figure out how to realign your life. You figure out how to get things sequenced properly, set up the stack of your priorities, of your responsibilities, the things you care about, the things you want in your life, how they can be integrated together. And then the third step, after you have done discovery, after you've done strategy, third is execution. So often people run right into execution first. And they just, just like kind of going into a house, let's say that's a mess. And all the rooms and everything is just kind of, disordered and disheveled and nothing is the way it should be. Well, if you just run in there and start trying to pick up one thing and another thing and do another thing, and you just do whatever's right there in front of you, yeah, you could get somewhere like that. You could make some distance, but you also might just about drive yourself crazy. You have to have some kind of an idea, an approach of how you're going to get that house clean, how you're going to get things where they need to be.
So Shawn, what if someone doesn't even know what they're supposed to be discovering? Like, what does that actually look like for an actual person?
That's actually a really great question. So discovery, it really depends on the individual, it depends on the case that you're dealing with. But you begin with what information you have. You begin with what you do know, what you do understand. If you're helping someone else and you don't know them at all, then you have to pretty much get to know everything. You have to discover everything. You have to find out about their personality. You have to know what they want, what they don't want. You have to figure out all kinds of stuff. When you're dealing with yourself, fortunately, it's not that complex. It's not that much. You got some shortcuts. You got some things that you know about yourself, hopefully. And the discovery process looks like kind of just remembering, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? What got me into this in the first place? Why am I living this current iteration of my life? I have all these things that I'm doing and they've stacked up on me. Well, let's break that down. Each of those things that I do, each of those things I'm responsible for, why do I do them? Why is it a part of my life? So you have to break it down one thing at a time. And you might find that some of the things you're doing are not really even things that you should be doing or even want to be doing. You know, they could be outdated from an old season of your life. And so part of the discovery process, I'd say, is sort of going through a bit of a reduction phase where you figure out what things you still want to be doing. And is it still really core to your life? Is it still really something that you want to be engaged in, something you want to have as a part of you? That's a very practical thing to do, is to kind of map your own values, try to understand what are the core values for you? What are the most important things that you do? What's most important behind what you do? That helps with a lot, because it helps you find commonality and find how things can actually intersect and how they can actually be joined together. But ultimately, knowledge and effort aren't the problem. It's execution tools for a discovery problem. That's the issue. When you try to use tools and use things that are intended for getting things done and making certain things happen, when you're so focused on the outcome that you're trying to make happen, you're just hammering your head into a brick wall, you're not going to get that outcome. Paradoxically, you're going to get the outcome when you stop being so focused on the outcome, when you actually understand the processes, when you actually see what you need to do to get from point A to point B. So it's all about having the right tool for the right job. I hope you enjoy this first episode of this current season that we're in, this new iteration of the Shawn Douglas Show. Here's your one step for today. Find the thing that's been sitting on your mental shelf the longest. The project, the decision, the relationship you keep circling. Ask yourself honestly, do I actually know what's true about this situation yet? Because if you don't, no amount of planning is going to move it. That's where we start. Wisdom first, always.